What's up YouTube, PokePrimer here, primed and ready to deliver you our Week 1 Team Builder here in the PCR North. This week we are taking on, it just so happens to happen. I don't know how it happens every single time, but every time we start a league, like the PFL or the PCR or whatever, with Scott in it, somehow every single time we end up with Scott week 1. He's not even in our division. He's in the opposite conference's opposite division. So it just worked out that we are facing Scott week 1 again, which is super scary because Scott and I, granted we have traded wins before, Scott is easily one of the best battlers I've ever played against, period. There's almost no comparison for him to anyone else that I've played over the years. There's between him, Dylan, and Donald, I think they're like the 3 best guys I've played, with Darius also up there as well. Like, a lot of the guys from this league are great, but Scott is easily one of the top 3 I've ever played against, period. So if that doesn't say a lot about him, that's something. But his team is terrifying offensively. He has Zeraora, Mamoswine, Primarina, Amoonguss, Druddigon, Tauros, Mega Absol, Tornadus Therian, Emboar, Metagross, and Sigilyph. With his Z users being Primarina and Sigilyph. I'm kind of surprised he didn't go for Metagross as his other Z user, besides Sigilyph. I know Sigilyph has a lot of interesting coverage moves and whatnot, so it would be interesting to use as a Z user, especially with its setup potential. But I don't know. I may PM him just out of curiosity to see why he chose Sigilyph, because he does still have the 10 extra Z points. I guess maybe for later in the season if he wants to move it over to Metagross, he can. But Primarina is kind of cool. He can actually potentially bring Primarium Z, which would be cool. Just as an extra nuke on his team, as if Primarina isn't already a nuke as it is. I'm super terrified. He's got so many threats with Emboar and Metagross. Torn T is never not a threat. Mega Absol is a monster. Amoonguss is going to be super annoying to try to break through. Just so many crazy strong mons on this team. It's hard to pick which one I'm most terrified of. So it's going to be a rough matchup. But I think we're going to do our very best. We built, I think, the best team we possibly could to take him on. So hopefully that'll work out in our favor. We're starting off with Chun-Li, our Mega Lopunny, Fake Out, Return, High Jump Kick, and Thunder Wave. Max Attack, enough speed to outpace the Tornadus Therian, and throwing the rest into our HP stat. Fake Out, even though it's not as necessary anymore to get the Mega off, get the speed boost, etc., etc., Fake Out is just really nice to get that extra chip damage, the extra stab chip damage. It's always really helpful in that sense because Mega Lopunny just strives on getting damage off on things. It hits so hard on its own that having that extra little chip potentially can turn the Fake Out Return combo into a guaranteed KO, which is a super duper awesome thing to have in any scenario. It's just nice to be able to say, yeah, I'm pretty much guaranteed to KO this mon. So, because of the Fake Out. It's really, really nice in that sense. I threw the Thunder Wave on there because there are a lot of the switch-ins being things like Primarina, Torn T, Metagross, potentially Sigilyph. Don't appreciate being paralyzed. So I thought if I threw on T-Wave, it'd be really nice to have that on there to slow those mons down, potentially get those para hacks. You never complain about para hacks when you get them. You only complain about them when you don't. or when you complain about him when it's against you. That's just the way it works, the way this world is. You just have to accept it. But, yeah, Mega Lopunny is an absolutely fantastic, stellar Pokemon. So I'm really looking forward to using her once again here in this matchup. And I think she can do a lot of work here. Next up we have Chibi, our Mew, Colbert Berry, Knockoff Roost, Drain Punch, and Zen Headbutt. We are running 96 speed with a Jolly Nature, 164 into defense, and 248 into HP. The bulk is there to mainly allow us to take on Mega Absol. This is a Mew that can 1v1 Mega Absol. Because with Roost, we can play the mind games for Sucker Punch, and even still, like if we can keep ourselves well above 50%, we can take a Sucker, which is nice. Knockoff is nice to get rid of items on just the rest of his team, which is always fun. Drain Punch allows us to beat the Mega Absol because we do a massive chunk of damage to it, and then we can we recover back a large amount of HP, which is always super nice. And then the Color Berry allows us to chew, a hit like a knockoff or something. Then we have the Zen Headbutt, just so we can have the stab move to hit anything else on his team with. It'll help us break down the Emboar, break down the Amoonguss, which is always nice to have that kind of stuff extra. So that is our Mew. Next up, we had a change in nickname between the Teambuilder, or the draft analysis in here. I decided to call Alola Ninetales Ur. It's a fairy tale reference. Is the female master of Gray Fullbuster and Leon Vastia. So I felt like this was the most relevant switch I can make, because I don't want to just call it Emma Frost, because like that feels cheap. So happy days. We went for Aurora Veil, Freeze Dry, Moonblast, and Blizzard. 248 HP, 100 special attack, and 160 in speed with the Timid Nature. This speed stat allows us to outpace the Sigilyph. It's the fastest mon that we can really outspeed, so might as well just speed creep for that. The 248 in the HP just give us a little bit of extra bulk behind the Aurora Veil if we can get it set up. We have the Light Clay to keep Aurora Veil up for the 8 turns, which is really, really nice to have. Freeze Dry is there because Primarina is a pretty solid switch into this mon, so having the Freeze Dry there allows us to get some decent damage off on that. Moonblast, just for stab to smack almost everything else on the team really hard. Then we have Blizzard as an alternative Ice-type stab move, just so we can hit harder on a lot of other mons, because Freeze Dry isn't the strongest move. It's literally just here so we can actually beat down on that is our Alola Ninetales set. I think it could be really nice. Plus the Hail will be really good to chip down at things like, at some of his bulkier threats like Amoonguss, Druddigon, stuff like that. It'll be nice to have that extra chip damage. Next up we have Dr. Giro, our Registeel, Shuka Berry, Clear Body, Stealth Rock, Iron Head, Earthquake, and Counter. Fully physically defensive. Registeel, this thing is our go-to switch for Metagross. This thing can also take a hit from Emboar. It can take with the Shuka Berry, it takes an EQ from Mamoswine, and with Counter we knock it out. We can also take hits from Metagross and use Counter on that as well. We have Earthquake to hit Metagross for super effective damage on top of it. Iron Head was just literally there, put it on there for stab, plus it hits Mamoswine for super effective damage too, just in case, you know, I want to use that, or just anything switching in to get them super effective damage on it. And Stealth Rocks is super important, because his team doesn't appreciate the chip damage of rocks, so it'll be really nice to have those going at the same time. So that is our Registeel. Next up we have Popeye, our Assault Vested Swampert. Torrent for the ability, 248 HP, 112 defense, 144 into special defense, calm nature with 4 into speed. 4 into speed is literally there so that we can outpace. I think it was outpacing Primarina, because we do pack the Sludge Wave for that mon. Earth Power, Scald, Sludge Wave, Ice Beam, Earth Power and Scald just for the dual stab, so we could hit things decently hard with those. This thing takes hits really, really well. We put the Assault Vest on so that we could take we aren't too killed by Grass Knot from Tornadus Therian, and stuff like that, or Metagross for that matter, because Metagross does get Grass Knot and could potentially run it. It's entirely possible. This thing really this thing's a good switch into Zeraora, which is super nice to have. This thing also takes hits really well from things like Mamoswine. It's just a good wall against his team. This also is nice to have against Emboar, because Emboar does work to our team. So I'm really happy to have Swampert to take those hits. Last but not least, we have Krusty McGee, the Crustle, rocking the Beginnium Z this week. Shell Smash, Rock Slide, X Scissor, and Earthquake. Adamant Nature, Max Attack, Max Speed, and a 4 into Defense. Shell Smash, Rock Slide, X Scissor, and Earthquake. So, I figured he would run a lot of speed on Zeraora, and granted, yes, this is happening in hindsight. Jolly Crustle is the better play here. Jolly Crustle would bring me, because he's probably going to speed creep his Zeraora to Mega Lopunny. So, I could probably outspeed it with that, but I didn't want to take the chance initially, because if he just decided to run max speed, or he could easily speed creep a Shell Smash Crustle, I kind of figured it was no point in messing with that. So, Shell Smash will still get us to outspeed everything on his team, including Tornadus, besides the Zeraora. Rock Slide is for stab damage against his whole squad. Does massive, massive damage to everything. X Scissor plus the Beginnium Z allows us to break Metagross, as well as being able to break a Moongeist, break Sigilyph, absolutely nuke Mega Absol, and just be an overall monster's threat to anything on his team. And then Earthquake is literally just there as like a backup move for something like Emboar, so we can kill that. So we have all of that going for us. I think Krusty McGee can put in a lot of work in this game. I'm really, really pumped about Crustle. It has a really good matchup, I think, this week. And I think if the stars align, we could potentially pick up a Crustle sweep and beat Scott for the first time in a long time. I think we beat him once a while ago, but it's been a long time since that happened, so hopefully we can pick up a W here and start PCR off on the right foot. But that being said, I'm going to get out of here. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe if you have not already. And until next time, I'm PokePrimer, signing off. Peace.